Hi, everybody. Are you looking for some free science fiction and fantasy books to get you through this weekend? We've got them. Every Friday, the team here at MetaStellar reads the first few chapters of each of the top 5 free fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon. Yes, Amazon has a bestseller list that's just free books. It's linked down below in case you haven't been able to find it yet. They do not make it easy to find. Today's list includes epic fantasy, cozy fantasy, dark fantasy, and an EMP attack against Ohio. And there's even a box set of a completed series. But before we get to that, hi everybody, welcome back to the MetaStellar YouTube channel. My name is Maria KOROLOV. I'm the editor here at MetaStellar, and today I was helped out by editors Livette Dominguez-Torres, Alex Korolov, and E.S. Foster. And Emma is here with us today. Hi, Emma.
Hi.
So if you don't want to miss any of our free Friday videos, like and subscribe. Thank you. We appreciate it. And now let's get into the books. And we're going to start with book number 5 and count down to book number 1. And let me make that a little bit bigger for you guys so you can see it. This is um, Winter Tales from Cozy Vales by a whole bunch of authors. And it's the third of 3 books in the Cozy Vales Cozy Fantasy Story Anthology series. The other books are normally 99 cents, but both are free today as well. And we previously reviewed the second book in the series this past summer. So I'm the one who reviewed the previous book. So I wanted to grab this one because I liked the previous one. And I like things cozy, and especially with the winter turning cold here where I live in Massachusetts, it's a good time for cozy. And all the stories are set in the same fantasy world, um, cozy Vales, queendom, and there's little villages in there, and there's magic, and there's all sorts of magical beings there, and the tension is low, the stakes are low, and everybody's nice for the most part. It's just like it's like a Hallmark movie kind of fantasy story. The first story is set in the small remote village of Appleton, also located in the Cozy Vales Queendom. And the whole village is getting ready for the 2-week Winter's Tide celebration. And so is our protagonist, Jennifer, who's a hearth witch and baker. And so all the stories have that winter celebration as the theme. And so in her bakery, she has a magical sentient cast iron stove helping her out, a sprite accountant, and Dasha, who's her baking partner. And the bakery is on track to end the year on a profit, which is always nice to begin on some good news with these stories. So Genevieve, the Sprite, and Dasha close up for the day and head off to a local tavern. The streets are snowy, the village is beautifully decorated, everything is perfect, except for the fact that Genevieve's friend is still not back from a trip, and she'll be grumpy if he misses the holidays. And that's the whole big tension arc of this particular story. Well, one of them. So the 3 friends order food and cider, and the tavern owner asks Genevieve to bake him a special bread that's been handed down from a family recipe from his grandmother, and it's going to take some extra work, but Genevieve and her friends think they can pull it off. So the next day, they start right into the new bread owner, but when Genevieve looks closely at the recipe card, she notices a special ingredient that she doesn't have, a very rare salt. And the recipe card specifically says substitutions are not allowed. So she runs around the village trying to find the special ingredient, and then it delays them all, and then she and her friends have to work through the night to make up for the lost time. So when she's running around the village, meeting people, trading services, and making promises and stuff to try to find this magical ingredient, it's all super cozy. We meet a lot of the people of this village, and everybody's adorable. And like I said, the stakes are ridiculously low. It's a perfect read for a chilly winter evening, and I do plan to keep on reading. And then for something completely different, we have Damnation by V.E. Huntley, the first of 3 books in the Bloodstone Legacy, a post-apocalyptic paranormal romance series. The other books are $4 each, but they are in Kindle Unlimited, but they haven't been released yet. Kindle Unlimited is where you pay $12 a month and you read all the books you want. And it's a good deal if you read a lot. So the next 2 books in this series are scheduled to be released in April and June, but are both available for pre-order. And Emma read this for us. Emma, what do you think?
So I picked this up not knowing what I was getting into, and it turned out to be a very wild ride. So it starts off with this bit of a prologue. So Aiden and this girl named Allie, it's their wedding night. They've been in love for years, so everything is romantic, and it's finally time to consummate their marriage. Thankfully, it's not too graphic, so I'm like, okay, it's the prologue, but I can get through this. I'll be okay, you know. I'm not too keen on like all the romance and sexual stuff. But however, it turns out that Aiden is a vampire, and it's accustomed to bite and drain the blood from his mate, I guess. And apparently, like his mate is also either half human, half vampire, or all human. Either way, he is only supposed to take up some of her blood, but his lust is so powerful he ends up killing her. So he drains all of her blood. She's screaming, and then she dies. He's regretted his actions ever since. So it's kind of been haunting him for a few years now. Because the story then shifts to a few years later, and in this present day, Aiden drains the blood from another girl, but this is purely out of ritual. So here's a little backstory. In this world, there are vampires and they are ruling over the half-breeds and also the humans, set in like several years into the future. And basically, when vampires are only able to keep up their strength by draining some of the blood from their victims and then coming back to them later. So it's like kind of like recharging your phone where you let it get down to a certain point and then you wait for it to replenish, then you take from it again. So basically, they have this never-ending supply of blood to feast on and keep their strength up and their powers continuing to wax. So they have this endless supply, but, and this is where things got really weird for me, this has to be done during sex. They say it just has to be done that way. It's apparently so that vampires have this emotional hold over their victims, so they're able to assault them repeatedly, and then the victims, or thralls in this case, that's what they're called, they just take it willingly. So that already puts a sour taste in my mouth, but I digress. I was gonna move on. Aiden does this to another girl. The entire time he can't stop thinking about the one girl he actually loved and then accidentally destroyed. And so later on, he meets with his sister Keely, and she explains that her parents, who are the reigning vampire rulers of this world, are conducting a very important meeting that she says that he should be a part of. So there's a bunch of stuff that's been happening. She also scolds him for how she treats his victims, but Aiden says that the infirmary could just use the bloodstone to tend to them, so it looks like this stone is going to be important for later. Not sure what it is yet, but it apparently has powers of healing. The perspective then shifts to Ellie. So she is the slave girl. She's one of the thralls, it looks like, or she's destined to become one of them at some point. So she and a few other servants head to the market. They are retrieving food for the master they serve. At one point, Ellie tries to defend a friend from being taken away by guards, and she fails. She's sort of pushed aside. Everyone here who isn't a vampire is very starved and emaciated, and they're just trying to survive. So Ellie returns home. She's berated by one of the mistresses, and then she heads off to a meeting held by the master of the house. So the master also chastises her for being late, but Ellie, however, knows that for some reason she's being given special treatment. Like she doesn't receive as harsh of a punishment as other servants typically would. She is, however, because she was late, not able to eat food for the next 3 days. That is her punishment. And during that time, the master of the house also reveals that the vampire rulers, Aiden included, are about to arrive at the estate. So I stopped reading at that point, and it's mostly because some of the elements weren't my cup of tea. But I did actually like the world building. I liked the fact that there were all these different levels, like this hierarchy of vampires, and the idea of where the vampires came from was very interesting because it was almost like an advanced scientific breeding program, so it kind of combines elements of science fiction and fantasy. Like there's advanced technology that the vampires use and things like that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but I didn't like the character of Aiden. I didn't like what he does to his victims. But if that doesn't bother you and you enjoy reading about vampires, then I would recommend you check the series out.
Thanks. Okay, so book number 3 on today's list. And Emma read this as well. So what I tell you about the book first, it's the Nocere, Nocere. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Heather Carson is the author. Sorry, Heather, I don't know how to say it. This is the first of 3 books in the A Haunting Dystopian Tale series, which is a dystopian dark fantasy series. The other books are $4 each, and they are not in Kindle Unlimited, and the author has been on our Free Friday list before. Love the way the cover looks. So, Emma, how'd you like this book?
This one was also pretty wild, but not as wild as the other one. So it starts off with Fawn. She's this young girl. She was brought up in an orphanage. She was recently leased out to the mafia to work as this indentured servant for 6 years. So it starts off in the beginning with her standing in this carnival. She's going to be an employee there. So at first she doesn't seem to mind to have to work because she's like, oh, hey, I get to work at a carnival. This is going to be so much fun. And for further backstory, the carnival also exists in this alternate realm, which we find out is actually the afterlife. So here, the afterlife isn't like heaven or hell or anything like that. It's just a place where all of the deceased people live. So in the past, humanity discovered that this place existed, and they had proof, and they were able to build portals into it. So now people are able to travel back and forth without actually dying or anything like that. But things have gotten messy since then because corrupt organizations have largely taken over. People travel back and forth, but now there are places like things like the mafia that have just sort of monopolized different areas of the afterlife as well as the human world. So at first, Fawn thinks that she's going to have a great time at this job, but her new boss is mean to her. And like, this is where I started disliking the character of Fawn because at first she was like, "Oh, I'm so excited. I can't wait to work at this carnival." And then the like the her boss, like the conductor of the circus is like, "Yeah, get out of my way, orphan. Like go do your job." And she apparently takes a huge offense to that and she's like, "Man, he must really despise kids. I don't want to work this job anymore." So she goes to the orphanage director and tries to plead her case. And the director, he couldn't care less. I'm assuming that whenever older orphans are leased out for jobs, that's sort of like the orphanage's source of income. So like I'm kind of on the director's side in a way. It's just like, okay, yeah, well, you kind of have to get over it, Fawn. Like this is your job for a while. You're gonna get stuck with it. But Fawn doesn't like that whole idea. She tries to run away. She's able to escape the orphanage, but as she's hiding in an alley, there's this mysterious shadowy monster that appears, and it nearly snatches her away. Like it tries to grab her, she screams and runs, but that attracts the attention of the local mafia. So as punishment, the mafia that she's indentured to places a tracker in her arm, and she gets another year added to her sentence. So now she's got 7 years instead of 6, because I mentioned it's 6 years long. So several years after that, Fawn is now running drugs. So this is kind of like aside from her carnival job, and she's doing it for extra money. Her time at her actual job is close to ending. She still has this other year because of the incident. And so like all of her friends in the orphanage are finally being able to escape from these jobs. They're able to get married, live their lives. And she's really jealous of that. So she meets up with a few people that she's been providing drugs to, and they tell her about this new nightclub, the title of the book, and it's in the afterlife still. But she says that they say that she might be able to find work there. This might be a way for her to get on her feet so she won't have to do this kind of thing anymore. So seeing it as this might be a way out, Fawn decides to look into it. So I definitely enjoyed the idea of being able to access the afterlife and it just not being what it seems. It like takes away your preconceptions of what an afterlife might be like and sort of messes with it. So for this story, things move really fast. There was a lot of telling for me. So it was like this all took place within like 2 chapters. and so much happened in that during that time. So it was easy to read. It was a good chunk of story, but it moved too fast for me to really enjoy and get to know the characters. So I don't think I'm going to be sticking with this one, but I also, if you're interested in it, definitely check it out.
Thanks. And now on to something different yet again. Let me make that a little bigger for you guys. So this is EMP Ohio by Colton Lively. It's a standalone book of small town post-apocalypse EMP survival, and the author has many, like more than 30 other books in the genre. So it's not a series, but he's got a lot of books. So if you like this one, there's so much more for you to read. And nearly all of his books are in Kindle Unlimited, and the author is a regular on our Free Friday list. People love these books. And on our team, the person who loves these books is Alex. So he's been reading all of them for us. Thank you, Alex, because most of the rest of us aren't fans of this whole EMP thing. So an EMP book is one where an electromagnetic pulse wipes out all electronic devices, including cell phones, computers, most modern vehicles like cars and airplanes. Havoc usually ensues, and in many of these books, society immediately descends into chaos and people start killing each other. Because, of course, that's what people do when there's a disaster. They immediately start killing each other, which is why I have a really, really hard time with these books, because that's not what actually happens in a real disaster. People tend to pull together, you know. But anyway, Avery is a 24-year-old woman living in Columbus, Ohio. She works at a law firm there. She loves her job, but she's thinking of moving somewhere else. She doesn't have a law degree, so she edits all the paperwork at the firm, which is still an important job. And she's talking with her colleague when the building's power suddenly goes off. They're on the second story of this building, which also has other law firms and businesses, and everyone gets escorted out into the street. And they see a car plow through the windows of the building lobby, and other cars are running into each other in the streets. And her cell phone is dead. She can't call for help. Her friend gets run over and squished by an out of control bus. And that's just in the first chapter. So Alex says that as far as these kind of books go, this one starts with a lot of action, which he likes. He thinks that this is the best kind of EMP book, when they lean in heavy on the chaos and confusion, and this one does that. So he says he's going to be sticking with it because that's his kind of thing. And before we go on to book number 1 on today's list, which is that box set of a complete fantasy series that I was telling you about earlier, I want to thank our Patreon supporters, because all the short stories that we publish for our original fiction, plus the stories that go into our anthologies, we have 3 anthologies right now that are available for purchase. They're all paid for because of the Patreon donations. All of us are volunteers, including me and Emma and everybody else on the MetaStellar team. All the money donated through Patreon or donated through the YouTube memberships, because there's like a membership button down below, separate from the subscription one. Subscriptions are free. Memberships cost like $1 to start with. All that money goes to pay for original fiction to new and up-and-coming authors who write sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. So we love that. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting us. You mean the world to us. You make it possible for us to publish new short stories every week on MetaStellar and to publish anthologies. And now we're serializing a whole novel. It's almost come to an end, Gods and Monsters. It's awesome. We also have the author reading the book out loud, chapter by chapter, over the course of the previous year. And if you subscribe to our channel, you'll get those notifications as well. Okay, so also I have books up on Amazon, and Emma has a book editing business. So if you need that, you know where to find us in the description below. We have all our links. All right, and now on to book number one, the number one bestseller on today's free fantasy and science fiction bestseller list. It is Guild of the Eternal Flame, a box set of the entire 6-book series by Talia Beckett. Normally the books are $4 each, but they are all in Kindle Unlimited. The author has been on our Free Friday list before. Lilibet Dominguez Torres read this for us, but she can't be here with us today. So Emma's going to tell you what she thought. So Emma, what did Lilibet have to say about this box set?
So she said that this was a very fast-paced story. It's high fantasy, and it starts off with an elf, a dwarf, dragonborn, an ex-sailor, and a rogue find themselves stranded, and they're in the same inn during a heavy snowstorm. So already I like that. It sounds like a D&D campaign, but also sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So the inn is overcrowded by guests. There's the elf and the dragonborn sorceress, and they end up having to share rooms, and the dwarf and the ex-sailor also have to share rooms as well. So the four of them learn that a farmer's wagon hasn't been able to make it to the inn because of the snowstorm, so they decide to help out the owner of the inn and the farmer. They learned that the wagon had been left stranded not far from the inn, and then on their way to the wagon, the elf realizes that maybe the other three are not bad company, so sounds like it has cozy vibes to it, and maybe she might enjoy their company for a bit longer. It's not until they run into bloodstains on the snow, however, that she realizes that this little quest she joined for fun might actually be more dangerous than she anticipated. So, to discover what appears to be an organized group of ruffians and leading the way to the way, like they discover all these different people, like this organized group of ruffians leading the way to the wagons and horses. And after getting rid of them, like the group quickly realizes that someone must have been behind the attack, and that's where the bloodstains came from. So after the killing, they decide to retire back to the inn and they just decide to leave the exploring for later. So it already looks like there's a bit of mystery going on here, and Lilibet says if you're a fan of fantasy books and you're looking for a fast-paced story full of magic and groups of fun characters, then she definitely recommends you the series a chance. She says that it's very fast-paced, but it reads easily and it's kind of like a cozy low-stakes vibe to it. So she's definitely considering continuing with this one.
I am considering picking that up as well. I mean, I've already picked up my copy. So, like I am in the mood for cozy fantasy right now. So definitely sounds like something I would be into this weekend because it is kind of chilly and it's pretty chilly here in Massachusetts. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I want to let you know that there's a couple of more videos that you can watch um, that Google or YouTube will recommend. Here they are. And don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss any of these videos. We're here every single Friday. Thanks, everybody. And if I don't see you guys again, have a happy holiday season. Bye-bye.
Bye.